Hey, what's up, everybody? I just spoke for a minute while I had the mic muted, so I was basically talking to myself. Hope everybody's well. This is Caesar, and welcome, Gyro. Hope everything's well with you. Pleasure to be here with yourself. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I had to unmute to get that amazing music off the speaker.
Thanks for having me, and glad to meet you as well.
Yeah. How do you can you hear me loud and clear? How do I sound?
You sound clear to me.
Perfect. Awesome. So I'm just waiting for the PlayFi account to log on, and I'll invite them up as well. Are we expecting anybody else to speak, or it's just you and the PlayFi account?
Just me and Arias, who's our founder, is going to be joining from the PlayFi account.
Okay,
Is
there
aware
we
of
go.
it. We
Yep.
spoke 15 minutes ago, so should be here soon.
Sure, I see him. So the PlayFi account, I'll invite you as a. I see you requested, but I'll also send you an invite to co-host as well. You just got to accept that co-host invite. And if that didn't flash across your screen, I mean, I could always accept your request to speak, which I'll do right now as well. Oh, there you go. I think you got it. Yep, perfect.
Hello. I made it in.
You
Hey,
did. How
folks.
are you? Yes, sir.
Good to be here.
Yes, my pleasure. This is Caesar. I'm a co-founder of Apelist and AlphaBot with a few of my partners, and we are more than grateful to be here with you guys and listen to what you guys are bringing to Web3. Especially, I'm excited about the AI space myself, and I know you guys are that's your niche as well. So I can't wait to hear a little bit about what you're building and get a little alpha and a little more clarity on what exactly you're doing. So I think we'll give it maybe another 1 minute, let some more people get in here, and then we will get started. But I think maybe for the first minute, while we're waiting, you can give a brief introduction about yourself if you'd like. So I know I have Gyro. What name do I have on the PlayFi account?
You've got Ben, the founder of PlayFi, coming at you from the official PlayFi account. But you can also find me on X as Arius XYZ.
Amazing, Ben, and a pleasure to be here with you as well. This is Caesar, and I will say this before you get started. So I am not the best with pinning posts on the top of the spaces, and I've rugged a few in the past, so I tend to just stay away from it now. I mean, I did make you both co-hosts, so if you have knowledge and are confident that you won't rug the space, feel free to post any tweets on the top of the page that you'd like, and then we could take it from there. And maybe you just give you and Gyro both give a little brief introduction about yourself, and then we'll take it into PlayFi.
Awesome. Well, let me kick off. Ben, the founder of PlayFi. In some form, I've been working on this idea for the past 3 years, and in the last 6 months have sort of been able to build out the team to really pull this together. And I'm fascinated by this sort of intersection between artificial intelligence, Web3, which I love. I've been in crypto since 2018, and then live content, which is half of all global internet traffic every day. And so PlayFi is sort of this dream to bring all those things together and hopefully build something pretty special.
Hey everyone, so I'm Gyro Blade. I am the product lead over at PlayFi. I actually have a game development background. So I worked professionally in the game industry for about 15 years. I'm based out of Brooklyn, New York, and I've worked on pretty much every type of game you can imagine, from mobile games, PC games, interactive installations and museums, all kinds of different stuff. And I've also been in crypto since 2014. I got started writing for a cryptocurrency magazine actually back then. So I've been in both these spaces a long time. And in the last few years, I feel like these spaces have really kind of matured enough and developed the communities and tools and infrastructure that, make it a good intersection of those two worlds for me. So I've been doing Web3 games for a couple years now. In the last 6 months, I've moved over from doing a lot more engineering and design and development and over into the product side of things here at PlayFi to make sure that I bring over a lot of our experience working with games, working with interactive media, which we do a lot with Playify. It's all focused on live and interactive stuff, and a lot on community building as well. So I'm very, very focused on building communities, especially coming from a lot of the indie game space. So that's a bit about me, and glad to be here.
Amazing. And perfect introduction. Another fellow New Yorker right here, Caesar, from Long Island. But I definitely could tell just by the way you speak that you're from the same area. But so let's
I could tell the same about you. I was thinking that myself.
yeah, amazing. So I mean, I do get Boston sometimes because I think out on eastern end of Long Island we get a little New England accent as well. But
Mhm.
I've never lived there and never will live there. So I am through and through born and bred New Yorker. I don't know if I'm happy about that anymore, but I used to be because New York has really gone to shit. But we'll stay away from that. But so PlayFi, I love it. So I am fascinated myself about artificial intelligence and although I'm not an expert by any means, I do love to host, any space where a project is focusing on artificial intelligence because I need to wrap my head around it more, and I have gained a little bit of knowledge through these spaces. So I continue to host them because we do have another host that does AMAs, but I felt inclined to do this one myself. So, with that being said, PlayFi, I know you guys have a big sale coming up in a few days, which people should be in the know about. And why don't you, whoever, Gyro, Ben, it's up to you guys who wants to take this. Why don't you just give us a little clarity in general about what you guys are doing and with the node and how how you're connecting it with AI as well.
I'll give a top level intro to what PlayFi is, and then I'll hand it over to Ben to talk a bit more about the nodes and the sale that's coming up. So at PlayFi, we're solving the problem that right now the vast majority of internet traffic, and this is growing, is live content. And what that means is streamers streaming content, video games being played live sports, live entertainment, live media, live news. And that number is only growing. But right now, the majority of that data that's there, and there's a ton of rich data. You think about watching a news broadcast or a video game event, tons and tons of data. It's fragmented at best and often just not available at all. So, there's thousands of hours of videos stored on Twitch, but you can't access that. You can't index it. You can't create rich experiences on top of it. And it sucks to kind of extract that data. You have to have a human watch data currently, whether it's a human watching a football game and manually entering in the information about how far a player ran, or whether it's a video game and you have to increment a tournament manually. And so PlayFi has AI agents that watch these games, that watch these events, that watch this real content for you. And they do it obviously at superhuman speeds. They can watch a real live event and extract the data in real time, or they can watch recorded events and do it super quick. And so what they do is they take, let's say, an hour-long game of Counter-Strike, and they'll turn it into just like a text document. That's maybe 30, 40 lines of text. It's a little JSON file. We take that and we store it on our decentralized node network, which does both the processing and the storage. And so now you have this data. So instead of an hour-long video, you have a text file, which is easy to index and easy to use. And then we can attach it to Web3 primitives. So you can start making smart contracts that'll automatically report on that data. You can make prediction markets based on what the news is going to say. You can make video game tournaments that'll automatically, increment and then pay out to people. And so attaching Web3 primitives to this real-time content that currently is just being wasted is kind of the core thesis of what we're doing with AI and PlayFi in general. And I'll hand it off to Ben to talk about how our nodes kind of do that and our node sale and why that's important for us.
Yeah, so at the sort of the core of making all this happen, and this incredibly complex task of turning live content into something that can be used, is our decentralized network, and our nodes do four jobs. They handle the AI processing, they handle the storage of that data, they handle the consensus to make sure that all the nodes are reporting the same thing and that no one can game the system, and then they also do the ZK proofing as well to prove that the data on our network is untampered with. And unlike some other nodes that maybe you've seen, which are very focused on providing GPU to other people for their use, PlayFi's node network really is for our use. It's driven by data coming into our protocol, and that is then used by people using the PlayFi protocol to build interesting stuff. And we had scheduled the node sale to be later in 2024. But we've seen our testnet usage sort of go through the roof a little bit. We got over, I think, 70,000 transactions in a week, and it became evident that if we were going to survive and scale our testnet, we needed to bring a limited number of nodes online as quickly as we could. And for that reason, we're doing on Wednesday our Genesis node sale, which will be the very start of this network. 1,000 node licenses that are hopefully going to come online as quickly as possible to help us start to scale out this vision.
Intense. Now, just for me, I think you guys explained this very how do I say this, very very in ways that even I can understand without sounding too complicated. So I mean, just to hear the data points, just and I'm going to use the same example you used, a football game, and then you have a human just transferring the data. It's got to be so impossible. So to really have a product that's going to be, you doing this with all the content being made out there, and really, like you said, in superhuman speed. I think this is intense, and I definitely think there's such a void in the space, and a need for this as well. So just just from the way he explained it, it's super understandable, and I definitely think a huge spot here where you guys can take advantage of a void that we've had in the space. Now, one thing I do not understand, and I just want to ask this question. I know you recommend, you mentioned ZK proofs. Now, I'm familiar with ZK, and the layer, it's a layer 2, I believe, EVM, and it's can you give us a little idea of what a ZK proof is, and how PlayFi is using that in their play chain?
So ZK proofs are actually a total kind of mindset of way of accessing and proving data. So there are several blockchains such as ZK Sync and the ZK EVM that Polygon's using that are using ZK proofs as well. And we're using some of the same technology as ones like ZK Sync. And what zero knowledge proofs, though, is at a fundamental level, they create a way that you can prove data is valid without looking at it. And so at a very, very top level, normally to make sure that data is accurate, you would have to look at the data and see if it's what you expect. You'd have to create some metrics, open up the data, and say, yes, this is what it looks like. At a very top level, the way a zero knowledge proof works is that you can have math at the beginning and math at the end of that transaction and apply it to the data without ever looking at the data and see if the result is correct. So let's say that we have a file stored on our network and we know it's supposed to be a Rocket League, game, and it's got all this, we don't know what data is associated with it. We know some top level metadata, but just enough to query it. And we want to make sure the data that's being returned was the same as when it's uploaded. When it was uploaded, we created that mathematical equation that you ran it across and it gave a specific result, just like cryptography usually works. Now what we can do is you can run that same math equation on the data that was returned, and if it gives us the same result, we know that it's valid without actually looking at that data. And that's why they're called zero knowledge. It lets you create a proof that the data is consistent without knowledge of that data. And so that's the type of technology that's being used by all these blockchains and what we're using, because it gives us a ton of privacy. It gives us a ton of efficiency because we don't need to open up these millions of data files we'll be saving. We just need to access their proofs. And it lets us use these like really new technologies that are fast and affordable. One other minor thing is that because our play chain uses it, we actually only need to do something that's called settling the state difference between the beginning and end. So if there's a million transactions on a layer 2 like Arbitrum, you have to record every million of those because you need everything in between. But because zero knowledge proofs and these zero knowledge technologies only need the math at the beginning and the end, as I mentioned, we can just settle the end result. So we can do 1,000 transactions on our chain and only settle the final result down to the base layer of Ethereum, which means that we can do many, many transactions really fast, which is super important for accessing this real-time data. So lots of words, lots of math going on, but that's the top level of what zero knowledge does and how we're leveraging it.
Yeah, amazing, and I think just the word they used, efficiency. I think this is tremendous when it comes to hours, man hours, or just saving times for a product or a project. I think this is a super super needed technology that is been building out in recent years that I've seen ZK for a few years now, that since they've been on my radar, but I really didn't explore too much into them. But now you gave me a little bit of a generalization of what they're doing, and it's huge. I mean, now when you explained it, now let me ask you this: how do you get the math in the beginning? So if the data at the end, and the math equation is going to, you're looking for it to equal out as the same, but the data didn't come out. How are you getting the math in the beginning? Can I ask that?
Yeah, so I will preface, we have a PhD, multiple doctorate holder, writer, person that does all of our zero knowledge things and writes it. So I'll just give you what I understand about the tech is that essentially, in order to create the proof, you do know the data when you create the proof, right? So the data comes in and you can see it. The node, that's processing it, or any mathematical equation, you can see it. But once you create the initial proof around it, now you can run it again. So it's almost like a very simple algebra equation. 1 plus 1 equals 2. And now, if you have x, you can say 1 plus x equals 2. And you can fill in that equation. You can, without necessarily looking at what x is, that it's an accurate representation, right? So very, very, very stripped down version of it. But yeah, so you create the proof knowing the information, but then once it's stored, it's essentially encrypted and hidden. And you can now make sure that the math checks out without actually knowing what the end value is. And there's a lot that goes into it, which is why it's a relatively new technology, but that's a really, really stripped down version of it.
Yeah, grateful for that explanation, and I apologize for going off on a tangent there. A little left from PlayFi, but I just wanted to wrap my head around it as
We can dig
we
into
spoke
all
about.
those. Happy to do it anytime. Like that's what these are fun for. It's good to get into some of the things people are curious about.
Absolutely, and I can't be the only one that had a similar question like that. So I just wanted to get it out there and get a few answers. So let's get back into PlayFi, and primarily it still is. We were talking about what you guys are building, because this is one of your four key aspects of the PlayFi protocol. Now, I also see, when I get onto your website earlier, I see that you guys are doing an airdrop. And maybe before we get into the guts of PlayFi, can you give us a little clarity on how do people get involved in the airdrop, and do we have a date, and what does that look like?
I'll take that. Yeah. So it's already running. We have a site, airdrop.playfi.ai, and we've got people already sort of busy in there, helping us grow our community, helping us spread the word, and earning airdrop points as part of sort of supporting us. Buying a PlayFi node will probably be the biggest thing that you can do in the short to medium term to get a bunch of airdrop points. And obviously that goes live in a couple of days. Our goal for the Play token, and I'll let Jara give the explanation about the economy, but it's not just the gas token, for the PlayFi chain, which will do a lot of the heavy lifting around getting data out of content and getting it on chain where it can be used. But it's to really build an economy around, supporting people who farm data, who create data, and then helping people who use that data to build interesting things. And the Play token sort of sits right at the heart of that. And we want to launch to as big a community as we can. We want to have as much data flowing through the PlayFi network as we can, and so that's why we're sort of starting with this airdrop campaign being quite a broad brushstroke to try and get as many people in as we can. And Jara, I know you love to talk about the economy that you and others have designed to make all this work.
Yeah, take it away, Jai. I mean, let's
Cool.
let's hear a little bit about the the mechanics and the economy, and how you thought it out.
We have a really cool economy that builds upon itself. And so the way that the Play token is primarily distributed, other than, of course, our initial airdrop, which kind of feeds into this as well, is going to be to node operators and people uploading quality data. And those people are very incentivized to be doing so because the network will be paying them out. Those are the main faucets that'll distribute Play. But the question then kind of is like, okay, well, where is play being spent? So as Ben mentioned, we'll be using it as our gas token for our chain, but our chain is actually designed to be very, very cheap. So that's not going to be a huge necessarily sink of this. Where the play token really is used is that's how you're going to pay for this data. And you can think of things like a Filecoin or a Chainlink, and we kind of sit in some ways between those two, in that we have this wealth of data and we have these oracles that are both on our chain as well as on partner chains. So we're working with like Multiverse X and Polygon and ZK Sync, and we're going to have our oracles deployed on all these partner chains as well. And so wherever there's an oracle, whether it's on our chain or a partner chain, and you want to access any data from our network for use in your betting markets, your tournaments, your stat tracking, you'll pay in the play token. And this is really cool because the more data is available, the more people want to build on it. And the more people are building on it, the more people want to upload the data because the more people are paying to use that data. And so I envision that many of these people that are uploading data will also be node operators that are processing and storing the data, and will likely either be or have colleagues or friends that are the people building these applications that are using the oracles to access the data. And so it kind of snowballs in that, like, they all feed into each other. And so it's a really great economic loop. And our role is essentially just get it started. And so we have a lot of really great grant programs that are going to be the early uses of the play token to, of course, incentivize our node operators, but also to incentivize these first round of builders and tinkerers and hackers and people that want to build these cool things, as well as partner projects that already have built these cool things, but want to do it in more optimized ways. And so, yeah, we're eventually want to continue just like building this, but at the very start, it's going to be a big snowball where this data we become more and more valuable, and therefore the play token will be used more and more to access that data and then distribute it to the people that are storing it. So that's kind of our economic loop.
Amazing. And it's just in my head alone. I could just just imagine how the play token will be used, more and more as the word gets out about, a play chain and PlayFi, and how you guys are really, using for developers that want to use the data, and now the only way to really to use that data is by spending your play token. So now you said this was already a token that's live, or it's coming on. Do we have a date, or you said it's live?
No, no, it's not live yet. So it'll be later this year that we launch that token.
Sure.
And we've got a lot to do between now and then. We've got the Genesis node sale. We'll have a public node sale later in the year, and then we'll have a token launch where hopefully we'll be back on with you talking about that,
Yeah, I would love it.
as we sort of gear up for
Absolutely.
that.
Now, when we speak on, individuals or communities becoming an operator of a node, can you give us a little insight on how someone would go about that? I mean, I'm sure there's tons of people in the audience right now that don't even know where to start. So if someone is liking what they hear, and they want to get involved, and they want to they're hearing operate a node, how does someone go about that?
Great question. So the founding sort of thesis of PlayFi is a decentralized network with hopefully in a couple of years from now, hundreds of thousands of uh, nodes serving as a sort of data edge around the world. What we want to do is build this network out to scale with the demand. I think some people who might have seen some node sales recently, where they've gone and set up a couple of 100,000 nodes, for example, um, hoping that at some point in the next few years they require that much processing power and that much network. We're taking a different sort of approach, which is scale the network progressively and make sure there's always sort of balance in the protocol that we're building. So we never have supply exceeding demand to such an extent that the rewards sort of become worthless for the people actually helping run the network. Um, Running the node on PlayFi is super easy. There's a couple of ways you can do it. One is downloading a file to your Mac, PC, or Linux machine, and installing the node, and then it will start to run. What's different with PlayFi is that you can choose which modules you want to run. So we have 4 modules, as I spoke about before, and each of those modules will be they have slightly different levels of rewards. And so based on how your machine, it could be a laptop, or you could be running a virtual machine if you're more techy, you can sort of configure that to say, here's what I want to run. But what we're making sure is that if you do run a node on your own machine, you'll be able to run it on a pretty standard laptop. You're not going to need to go and buy a sort of a state of the art, 64 gigabyte RAM machine to make it happen. The other way that you can run a node is by using a node as a service provider. And we've got 3 partnerships, 2 already announced, one coming soon. The ones we've announced with Rapid Node and NodeOps, and they will run your node for you. So that's sort of a single click, set that up. They take a share of the rewards, but you get your node up and running. And for a lot of people, especially if it's your first time running a node, that could be a really good place to start because you get to see how the node runs, you get to see the rewards coming through, and then what we hope people do is go, I now want to run more nodes and start to bring other hardware online that they control to make it happen. So yeah, super
Sure,
easy.
and you do make it sound extremely easy because listen, I've been in the space for just almost as long as both of you guys. I think I got in at the end of 18 and early 2019. Now, and even for me, I think the word node and operating a node was just something a little far fetched and something that I didn't have too much transparency on. But I mean, for those that don't even know what a node is just a you're it's a part of the blockchain that performs the transactions and stores data. Is that correct? Is that the definition of a node?
That's
All right.
basically
So
it.
I mean, it's fairly simple. And then I always thought for myself that if you were going to run a node for a chain, you had to have a super machine. Now you just put it out there that that is not the truth. And with a laptop you can do it. And then you have NAS companies doing it as well, which is huge. Node as a service. I mean, it has to be a huge business that's seeing tremendous growth right now because I'm seeing more and more nodes, AI nodes, all sorts of nodes being dropped in Web3. So, and you're saying that's a perfect place to start for someone that doesn't have too much education. And, it's always best to see something done before you get your hands dirty. So, anyone in the audience that's
And
that's thinking that this might be up their alley, I think we're getting a very good explanation and in layman terms, something that you can easily understand. And I think we all have decent, not all, but majority of us have decent computers that can do this. So I know I just use a MacBook with an M2 chip, so that's perfect to run a node. You telling me?
so with an M2 chip, like a stated, like a late model
Sure, I
MacBook,
bought it
you'll be
this
able
year.
to
Yeah,
run like tens of nodes on
that's
your
insane.
machine, depending on your storage. So I think the beauty of what we've done with the PlayFi node system is to make it super easy to install. So if you can run an app on your MacBook, then you can run a PlayFi node. And I guess that's how we're thinking about this because to build a network as decentralized as the one we're envisioning, with as many points of presence across the world as we need to make it as easy as possible. It needs to be affordable, it needs to be high yield in terms of reward, and it needs to be super easy to install. And that's sort of been our guiding principle on this from day one.
Understood. Now, one more question, and we'll move on. Now, do all chains? Is it that simple on all chains to run a node, or you guys are just making it that simple? Like, to be a node, just throwing it out there, and just hypothetical speaking, to be a node operator on Bitcoin, that's got to be much different than it is here, correct?
So different chains really have different needs for what a node entails. And so it's kind of an ambiguous term, which just means like you are one of the computers contributing. And so, there are miners on certain things like Bitcoins. There are nodes in Ethereum that do specific things related to like the network and processing. Because our nodes are these very optimized, small, focused thing. Our nodes are not trying to like run AI that's going to like tell you how to make a sandwich and do your math homework at the same time. They're also not trying to do these very complicated math problems that perhaps like some of the other nodes are doing on other networks. They are solving just these very narrow problems of taking this live data, identifying what it is, and extracting the key components. And because we've got these really optimized AI models, and the same is true of our storage and our coordination modules and our zero knowledge proofs, these are all designed to be really, really efficient and do really specific problems really well. And that means that they get to be really, really modern and really, really slim. And so it is not true across all networks. Some networks, has been mentioned, that we have some partners that we work with, and they're more focused on like the DPEN aspect of like providing a GPU as a service. That's what their nodes do, right? We're, as Ben mentioned, doing it internally. We're doing these very specific problems, and we're doing them really elegantly, which lets us be, one, a lot more decentralized because we can rely on more and more people as compared to somebody that has, if it requires a $10,000 server farm to operate a node, it's much harder to reach true decentralization. And it lets us do it fast and efficiently, and so that lets us pay out rewards, and it lets us do these things in this real time. So it's not true of every network, but it is why we started with our nodes solving these very specific problems and optimizing them to do exactly that.
Phenomenal. And I think, just to keep things, to be honest, not many things are truly decentralized in Web3, as much as we use the term and we want the space to be. But just the way you explain it, and the more operators you have, I mean, we're getting closer and closer to that fact. And it is, that is one of the reasons why I myself got into this space, is because I wanted to disconnect from the other side. So I do love the fact that you're making it super simple for normal degens just to get in and operate a node. Now, before we move on from your nodes, why don't we just give us an explanation and some clarity on what Playbase is and what that means for your node.
Yeah, so Playbase is sort of the network of all of those nodes. So our ecosystem is broken into two main components. So the first is PlayChain, and that is our layer 2 blockchain. It functions much like a regular layer 2 that you'd imagine, but as it mentioned, it uses those zero knowledge proofs, so it gets to do those really efficient settlements down to base layer. But on a user end experience, it's going to function anything like if you're used to using an Arbitrum or an Optimism or Polygon. It'll feel very similar to that. It also stores something we'll get back to, very important for our database, which is that sort of database, that decentralized database is called Playbase. And so that is our node network. And so if you're a node operator, you are a part of Playbase. Playbase is that network that essentially data comes in, it gets processed, it gets stored, it gets verified, and then it's ready to be accessed by these oracles that we spoke about. The really important connection between those two is that because we need to store those zero knowledge proofs, they're called fingerprints usually, we need to store records of the data. We create those fingerprints on our play chain, which is why we need that layer 2. It's a place that we can publicly, verifiably, and provably store those references and those proofs. And so that's how they work together. But our play chain will have regular DeFi stuff. We'll have tokens. We'll have swaps. We already have on our testnet, which is up and running. We already have NFTs and meme coins and all those kind of things going, which is really cool. And on our decentralized storage network, Playbase, we're going to be doing all that data processing and storage. And that's what is coming live with the Genesis node sale. That'll be the first node operators that are going to be contributing to that.
Amazing. Yeah, very well brought out, so everybody in the community can understand. Now I'm gonna maybe just I was debating on if this is a question I should ask or not, but I'm just gonna go with it, and if it's a little out of topic, forgive me. So with so many layer 2s being built on top of Ethereum now, in your own opinion, does this weaken Ethereum, or does it strengthen it, or does it compared to other chains like Solana or something, does this in your opinion, does it give Ethereum an edge, or does it weaken it because everything's being spread out and with different L2s and different protocols and different products? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, look, I think that's something that a lot of people are sort of wondering about at the moment. My view, and maybe this is PlayFi's view, is that we need to be an L2 because of how we're configuring our chain and the speed of what we're doing, to be able to turn content into data in real time. It would be very hard for us to do this on someone else's chain and achieve the results that are almost instant that we need to actually make the thing work. And so because we are sort of deploying our own L2, we can design and configure it in a way that makes things possible that simply wouldn't be on other chains, even on other EVM compatible chains. Um, One of the really nice things about sort of building on top of the ZK Sync stack as we are is elastic chains, and I think PlayFi is one of the first 12 partners that have been announced by ZK Sync as sort of being part of the elastic chain. And what that does is create centralized liquidity, centralized things around sort of identity, which make it really frictionless for a user to move in and around those chains. So as a user on these chains, you're not going to know that you're jumping from PlayFi to ZK Sync and maybe to something else because of the sort of the unified experience. But as a builder, you're definitely going to feel the speed of the PlayFi chain, and because we're not doing high-end financial banking settlements on our chain, we can optimize for speed rather than it taking 15 minutes to verify the data. So that's one of the advantages we have from that. Jara, I don't know if there's anything else that sort of comes to mind for you.
Yeah, I'm even just going to answer the question like a little more pointedly, which is I think it's overall good in that more business, more commerce, more competition, I think is always good. I mean, I love when there are 100 local stores and not one Walmart. And I think that, when you have big winners like Ethereum, it's really, really great. And it's an awesome place for, a solid place to build. But it is really great that, organizations like ours can break out these secondary opportunities, have all the robustness and security of something like Ethereum, but get to optimize for those specific scenarios. Now, that's not to say that every small business or every blockchain is useful or good or will survive. I think we'll see out of the many L2s that are coming out, we'll see, the winners that are doing things that are either something very specific to their product like us or something very generally useful, let's say like Arbitrum, will emerge as I think the ones that are meaningful. And the people that are launching L2s just for the sake of having an L2 or look, we're 0.1% faster than this other L2, I don't think really add value. But I do think that specialized chains on Ethereum or specialized technologies or products and generalized ones that are widely used, I think are both great adds to the network. And we're working on correcting a lot of the fragmentation that comes along with that, as Ben mentioned, with things like Elastic Chain, with things like cross-chain swaps or interoperability. So I think it's a value add personally.
Yeah, love the answers, and it's just definitely I'm pretty happy I did ask the question because it's definitely good to hear the aspects and what you guys really believe is good for the Ethereum blockchain because I had mixed feelings about it as well, and just because there's just like you just said, there's just so many L2s out there, and it's just it becomes overwhelming at times. But and a key aspect of it is interoperability as well, and I think that's so vital to sustainability. It's not funny moving forward. So I appreciate giving you truthful answers there, it possibly is beneficial for Ethereum to have all these L2s building on it, and it's not really weakening the system, but it's giving personnel people more choices, like you said, rather than shopping at a superstore. You have your decision to make on a bunch of different protocols. So
And
go ahead,
I
shoot
think
it.
if just to add on to that, if we have sort of 5,000 builders building on PlayFi and we're available, cross chain, our data is cross chain, and no one else knows about about what we're doing, then we will have achieved our goal because the goal of PlayFi is to be a cross chain protocol and to be really for people building on top of great data. And so if our node operators know about us because they're contributing to the network, and we've got some great builders working on the platform, but the rest of the world doesn't, they're just seeing the fruit of the network, then I'll be really happy.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to move on right now and maybe just talk about, your data edge network, and give us a little clarity on this. And again, for anyone in the community, PlayFi has their own website. You can go on and read through it. As I understand, sometimes you miss some things that are being spoken on, but I think on their website they definitely have uh, um, uh, full dialogue and literature that you can get a pretty good understanding on what exactly they're doing, and they're being pretty transparent about it and not leaving things out. So I think their website is done well, and I implore anyone in the community that's loving what they're hearing to go on their website and check it out as well. So yeah, back to that. Why don't you give us a little insight on your data edge network, and does that implement how the oracles work, or they work hand in hand? How does that look?
Yeah, so that data edge network is actually a Playbase that we spoke about. It is that node network, but I think it's probably worth digging a bit more into sort of why and even how it interacts with those oracles. And so this is a problem that we're solving for ourselves. And that means that we get to, really start from a place of knowing that this is a product people are going to use. We've also now had the luxury of talking to many, many partner projects. You can certainly check out our Twitter if you want to see all the awesome groups that we're partnering with, because they're solving or, having these problems too. And we're going to work together to solve it, which is that it sucks to rely on these centralized services for these things. Using a data edge network is a huge advantage when you don't want to be paying Amazon, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in storage fees or processing fees. And so we came from a background in game development previously. A lot of us have leadership at PlayFi. We came from an organization called Battlefly. We were a game on Arbitrum. And we actually were incurring tens of thousands of dollars, not an exaggeration, every single month in storage and processing costs from AWS. And that was one of the big catalysts for us to look at this and say, like, all we're really doing is storing this data, and we're not even getting to leverage it because this data wasn't available to our users. It wasn't on a decentralized network. It wasn't publicly actionable. It wasn't tied into Web3 primitives, but we still had to store it. And so it felt stupid. Like, why are we paying AWS $20,000 a month if our users don't even get it? They're still scraping our website to try and get the stats about this game that they want to play. And then as we started talking to more and more of these partners and more people in the industry, they were also like, yeah, like it sucks. Like, we want to build these experiences on top of it, but there really isn't a good way to do it. It's hard to do things like extract analytics. It's hard to do things like, make publicly accessible. It's hard to tie into Web3 primitives. And so I was on a panel with, several people in the AI space recently, and they were saying the same thing, is that their biggest cost is running AI models and processing on Amazon or Google servers. They have to just pay Google to run their things. And man, that sucks. And so we are very much aligned with the logistics of it is just better. It is strictly better. It is ethically better. It is more democratized. It is more fair. It is more equitable. It aligns us and what we're building with our community and with our partners to use a decentralized edge network, to use Playbase. And that's because we don't have to rely on a single entity that can turn on or off our access at will. We don't have to rely on the single entity that we're paying. Instead, we get to make money. We as in the community, the node operators, PlayFi, we get to make money on this valuable data. And then instead of hoarding it like somebody like Google does, we get to take that money and that data and give it back out to our community, to our partners, and to our node operators. And so the wealth in data, the wealth in these systems, it is something that we get to be a little, greedy is not the right word, but we get to do this from a sense that, like, we want to be financially aligned and logistically aligned with creating this network. And so that's really the core thesis of this data edge network of Playbase is let's not be shoveling, an unbelievable amount of money and trust and reliance onto these closed off, expensive private services, and instead let's make it available to the people that want to use this data, that want to support this network, and actually build into a decentralized thesis, because it just makes financial sense.
For sure. And just it's kind of crazy. Here you are paying, like you said, AWS tens of thousands of dollars, and and let's just call it what it is. And I'm sure they're using your data and making money that way as well. So,
Absolutely.
they're definitely double dipping there, and we all know moving ahead as time goes by, data is becoming, more and more people are becoming educated about their data, and I think the future holds, individuals being in charge of their own data. I think, maybe think is not the word I should be using, but I hope that it goes that way, because I think it's just a dinosaur model that these behemoths are collecting all your data and being rewarded handsomely for it. So I'm going to move forward with the word security. Now, when it comes to, let's say running a node for PlayFi, right? Now, the data that's part of your system, and do you guys collect all that data, or is it niched out? Is it separated out so that you're just collecting specific data?
So what comes into our system is video feeds, and we get to actually start. I'll talk a little bit about privacy and security here at the
Sure.
same time. So the data that comes in is first off all opt-in data, and it's a broad spectrum of data, but it's data that's already either being given to us freely by the people that are uploading it or in a public space. You can think something like a stream on Twitch or a broadcast on TV. So we get to start from a really good place, which is we're only collecting this general already public data. And then we're only extracting out these key elements from it. So we're not storing entire video files. That's expensive, that's slow, that's arduous. We're processing those video files and then turning them into, as mentioned, these small text packets. And so what we're left with is really just, this really public data that has a really good starting point for security. And we take that data and we store it on our network, and now people can run those queries on it. Again, it's of course encrypted. The way we store it, we take the data, we cut it up into many different pieces, duplicate it many times, and store it in different places around the world. So we're able to reduce latency by having these very, very, very tiny text packets essentially cut up, and that can be recombined using our services to give us really efficient speed. And again, nothing at any point, even though we're not storing private data, we're not storing sensitive information, all that data is still encrypted. All the data is still super secure because no single node has all of that data. They have these cut up little bits and snippets, and they need to be reassembled by the network, which uses those zero knowledge proofs. And so we get to do a lot of really cool things with security and scalability and stability. And we also have some really good company ethics around that in terms of like industry standards around everything, two-factor authentication on all accounts, the very, very bare minimums, but, general ethics of like security and responsibility for the company, smart contracts, all audited. It's going to be a very expensive. We're getting close to needing to do this as our mainnet is getting built out and all of our infrastructure. Very expensive audits from reputable people. That includes already our testnet has received some audits. Many of our smart contract we're using for our nodes already have audits, and those are going to be, I think they're already public and viewable. So we are doing best industry standards on everything that we're doing, and that extends to just the way we're storing and handling data. So we're very concerned about security, we're very concerned about privacy, and it is something that we're taking seriously. I think you need to if you're going to be handling any kind of information.
Yeah, just how should I say is just love the way you guys are putting it out there, and really, informing the community and making it very easy to understand. As I think I've had a wealth of education just in this short space, more than I have by reading up on it. So I do appreciate how you guys have explained it, and definitely look forward to what you guys are building and continue in Web3. Now, moving on here, how do now I see your numbers on if you hit the points on the airdrop on your website. I see you do have a decent number of participants now. When we talk about growth and PlayFi, I know before you said that you guys have seen your numbers increase, hand over fist. Now, can you give us a little clarity on what hurdles or what things have worked best to get you guys to get knowledge of PlayFi out in Web3, and what has worked best for you, or maybe what was the biggest hurdle?
I think one of the biggest hurdles has been we are breaking new ground. For some reason, up until PlayFi, no one sort of thought about this idea of taking live content, which makes up half of all internet traffic, and bridging that to Web3 and vice versa. No one's thought about bringing those two together in the way that PlayFi is, and so just explaining what it is we're doing and how it works has been hard, right? Because everyone's like, is this a meme coin on Solana, or is this sort of, you know, another narrative that I can ape into? So that's been hard, like, and breaking new ground always is. I think the what's worked for us is we've got some really great community members, and I can see some of them on the call now. Like they'll jump in, and I see them on Twitter explaining this to people. I see them in Discord like explaining how this might work. And that's made it easier. And then maybe the secret weapon we have is we've already got people in our community starting to build on top of PlayFi's protocol. Like they're already starting to build interesting use cases. And so when we talk to people, we can say, "Well, take a look at this. Like someone's already built, you know, what a prediction market based on PlayFi's data might look like," and we can kind of point them at that. So yeah, it's kind of like, I think community wins, and Aplist probably knows that better than almost anyone, right? If you have a community that is behind you and understands what you're doing, it's a huge amount of wind in your sails.
Yeah, definitely agree there, and you know, just being open and honest to your community as well, and I mean, we're all human. Mistakes are always made, and you know, the Lord knows I make tons of them, and just, you know, being upfront and communication is key with your community, and I think you'll get a, you know, a small, you know, a small network of warriors that stand behind you, and like you said, you have members of your own community just, you know, helping out when not asked to. And I think that that is a huge start to getting, you know, the information out there in the right avenues, and also the way you guys have went about explaining it is you know, better than 99% of the AMAs I've been on, because let's face it, a lot of, I think I'm pretty, you know, I'm fairly intelligent. I'm an average person. I consider myself, you know, neck and neck with the average person. My brain works every day, and I still did not have full understanding of, you know, running a node, or, you know, how intricate it was. And I think you guys, you know, put it out there pretty easy to get a full understanding, and really grasp that it is possible for people that are living their daily lives in Web3, and now they understand, hey, this can be something that you know, I want to do moving on, and I think that's a huge hurdle that you're getting past, because before this AMA, there was no thought in my head that even I can run a node myself. I always thought I needed a supercomputer, which was as crazy as it sounds, a crazy, you know, crazy understanding, and you know, not true to be uh, to be um, to be accurate. So definitely, you know, looking forward to this, and it's something that maybe even, you know, I get myself involved, and I hope some people that are in the community are also thinking that as well. Now you guys have a server that's open, right?
We do. So we have a Discord that you can join, and
Sure.
you can find that on our website. Playfi.ai is kind of our main hub where you can find all of our socials. You can follow us on Twitter if you aren't already. We're obviously keeping all of our posts up to date there. But Discord is also a great place to just ask questions. So especially as you approach the node sale Genesis license here, people are asking a lot of like the nitty gritty about what are the tech requirements, and like, you know, can I run more than one? What's the timeline? And so if you have any more questions, like dig into there. Like we are in this Discord. We're around. We have a great moderation team. So please join our Discord to chat with us. We also have a Telegram group, of course. And yeah, and all those are available on our website, playfi.ai.
Of course. Now, you know, one more question I need to ask. Now, if someone downloads, you know, to run a node, does this hamper the performance of your computer while the node is running? Does your computer run normal, or is it going to interfere with things, or is this built to work hand in hand with what you do on your computer while the node is operating?
It's a really good question. So it does take up resources, of course. It is not designed to maximize and totally stress out your computer fully. You'll be able to use it. I think the reason it's modular, and we didn't dig too much into this, but I want to touch on it, is that you can turn on and off those individual modules. And so you have the AI module, which is going to be something that's more GPU intensive. And you have the zero knowledge proof module, which is more CPU intensive. The storage module, of course, relies on having storage, right? And so if you're running out of space on your computer to store files, you can turn off your storage module. If you are going to be playing a video game, right? Like I know when I'm playing Apex Legends, I'm going to toggle off my AI modules because I want to make sure that my graphics card is fully dedicated to gaming. And when I'm done with my session, I can turn them back on. And so that modularity and flexibility ensures that like even the resources that this node is using up, when you don't want it to be using up those resources, you can turn it off without any risk.
Yeah, intense, and I think that's a beautiful thing to be able to turn it off and utilize your computer's full power when needed, and just a huge aspect to your protocol, and I think it's super beneficial for people that want to get involved, because that's got to be a question people are asking themselves: is this something that's going to dedicate my whole computer power?
Yeah, it won't dedicate your whole computer power. I mean, even running fully, if it really depends, of course, on your computer, right? If you're running this on a 10-year-old laptop, you probably can't play Fortnite while you're running it. But on a new computer, you're generally going to be fine to be running everything all at once. And then, of course, if you really want to squeeze out that extra performance, you have that modularity. So I imagine when I'm doing regular computer tasks, when I'm browsing the internet and watching YouTube videos, I'll just leave it running. But when I do more intensive tasks, if I'm, editing a video, I'll probably turn some modules off just so that I can optimize it. But that'll be the choices you can make. But for most people, I think just leaving it running most of the time is going to be more than good.
Great answer. Now, I think I've asked a lot of the questions that I did have. If I failed to go over anything that you wanted to go over specifically, I ask you to share this, and or if we did go over things thoroughly and you're satisfied with the questions I asked, you let us know.
I think we've covered a heap of ground. I guess the thing I'd love people to really understand about PlayFi is I think we've built a real technical moat for the protocol. Like the the way that we turn content into data and we do it as quickly as we do, we've got a provisional patent for, and we've got other patents coming online around sort of how the protocol works because it's taken an enormous amount of research and prototyping to get it to a level where we wanted, and we could actually sort of go out to the world and say, we can turn whatever you're watching or playing or streaming into data that can be used almost immediately, and do it not just reliably, like with 100% accuracy, but do it at scale and do it in a way that wouldn't, sort of would be an economic model that works. And so I think at some point in the next year, hopefully, a lot more people sort of clue into just how powerful it is what we're doing. No doubt there'll be some copycats, but right now we're sort of out forging a very new frontier for Web3. And I think what's exciting for me is that um, I think watching, consuming, creating content is something the world loves to do. And if we can connect Web3 into that, we're going to see a lot more effortless adoption for, I guess, the technology we all love. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about what we're building. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic.
Absolutely agreed, and I know that the node sale is just a few days away now. Is there still openings for people to get involved, and if so, how do they go about that?
So it's first come, first served on August 14, which is this Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in New York. So the reason we're doing it, there's no whitelist or anything like that, is we want this as decentralized as we can. Like we want to have as many people running a node as we can. And what we don't want is someone to run a bot and, buy all thousand, and then we have a network, but it's not decentralized. So that's how we're doing it. You can jump into our Discord and get the Genesis role, which doesn't give you early access to a node, but means if you do get the Genesis role and buy a Genesis node, we give you 3 times the airdrop points. So it's 2,500 points that you get for buying a node, as well as all the other rewards you get. But if you have the Genesis role from our Discord, you get 3 times that. So that's the thing you can do between now and 10 a.m. on Wednesday the 14th. But yeah, first come, first served, which I think is how it should be in Web3.
Yeah, and most circumstances, it does work better than the way the other ways of doing it. But I think if for those that were minting projects back in 2021, gas was huge, and a lot of people were left out of a lot of things. So I think in certain instances the pre-sale works, and then in other aspects first come first serve works as well. But when you get to something that's just so exclusive and limited, and maybe something that's just so out there, and there are advantages that people can get on top of others. So I think pre-sale works, but it definitely agree with what you're saying 100%.
We'll be doing this on Arbitrum as well, so gas should be super
Minimal.
low.
Sure.
And we've also got Explorer nodes that will be available, and the Explorer nodes run exactly the same as the Genesis nodes. They just don't come with the sort of early adopter bonuses, because so people won't necessarily miss out, but I think there'll be hopefully some excitement for people who get the first 1,000, and if you're one of the first 1,000 people to help stand up a decentralized network that has a 10-year vision, I think that's really exciting. There should be a reward for that. So hopefully people get in.
Amazing. And I'm definitely looking forward to this, and I just want to give a huge shout out to the community for those that gave us a little bit of your time this afternoon on a Monday to listen in and gain some true education, because I know I've gathered a wealth of information just in this short hour. But I am grateful, and I do appreciate everybody that gives a little bit of their time to these spaces, because they're super important. I am grateful to you, and as well as Ben and Gyro here. I think they are articulate and well spoken, and really put it in a form that you can really wrap your head around and grasp, where that might not happen so often in Web3. So I do give you a bravo for that as well, Gyro and Ben, and thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I'll leave it to you guys to maybe just wrap it up with a final statement.
I tend to wrap these up the same way, and it is actually more appropriate the way I usually wrap because of how community focused Apelist is. So I always close these with a call out to people listening. If what we spoke about today connects with you, if you're interested, if you're curious, if you want to use this technology, if you know somebody or a team or a company or a protocol, if you know people or you are people that think this would be cool and want to work with us, please reach out to us. We want to be a value add to as many people and organizations and companies and communities as possible, because that's the role we really see PlayFi taking in the ecosystem. It's why we've been able to partner with so many other chains and networks and gaming organizations, because we're not competing with them, we're adding value to their system. So if you think we can be a value add to you, and again, this is even more appropriate to a community like Apelist, who is a strong community. You all know the importance of community and how to work together to build really cool stuff and to create strong community sentiment. Please reach out to us. You can reach out to us on Twitter. You can reach out to us on Telegram or on Discord. We love to work with you. We love to talk about what your ideas are and how this is going to look. So please chat with us if that makes sense. And it was great to be here, and I hope to hear from Apelist and all of your community in the future.
Appreciate that. And Gyro, I gave you a follow, and Ben, can you share your page again, if you don't mind, publicly?
Absolutely. Arius_XYZ on everything.
So Arius is ARIIAS.
ARIUS_XYZ.
Gotcha. And I gave you his follow as well. And I wish you guys the utmost success moving forward. And I wish everybody a joyful and prosperous evening.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.